The wind howled a mournful dirge across the desolate peaks of the Ural Mountains. It was February 1959, and 9 experienced trekkers, led by Igor Dyatlov, had embarked on what should have been a challenging but conquerable expedition. Their laughter, once echoing through the crisp air, had been swallowed by the vast, unforgiving landscape. The early days of the trek were a symphony of exhilaration. Snow crunched rhythmically under their skis, each glide a testament to their strength and determination. The air, sharp and clean, filled their lungs with invigorating cold, a constant reminder of the wild beauty surrounding them. The camaraderie among the group was a palpable warmth against the biting chill, jokes exchanged, stories shared, and a quiet understanding born of shared endeavor. They were young, vibrant, and brimming with the confidence that comes from mastering their craft. Cameras clicked incessantly, capturing not just the majestic, snow-laden vistas, but also the genuine smiles, the shared glances, and the palpable joy of a dream being lived. They were chasing a conquest of nature, yes, but also a personal triumph, a moment of pure, unadulterated freedom, and every challenging step felt like a victory earned. The destination, Otorten, lay ahead, a beacon of their ambition, and they moved towards it with an almost tangible sense of purpose. Then, almost imperceptibly, something shifted. The weather, always a fickle mistress in these untamed parts, began to show its true, brutal nature. The playful snowfall of the earlier days gave way to an increasingly volatile tempest. The flakes, once a delicate dance, became a blinding, suffocating force, driven by winds that whipped the snow into a churning whiteout. They were pushing towards Koletsyakal, Dead Mountain, to the indigenous Mansi people. The name, once merely a geographical marker, now seemed to hang in the air, imbued with a sinister, prescient weight that, in chilling retrospect, sent shivers down the spine. On the night of February 1st, after battling relentless blizzard conditions, they made the fateful decision to pitch their tent on the mountain's exposed slope. It was a last bastion against the encroaching tempest, a fragile bubble of warmth against an increasingly hostile world, and they were unknowingly building their final camp. Imagine the scene: inside the tent, the rhythmic breathing of sleep, the faint hiss of a small stove, a semblance of peace in the heart of the storm. Outside, the wind screamed, a banshee's wail tearing at the fabric of the tent, a relentless, primal roar. Then, without warning, a sudden, inexplicable panic shattered the fragile calm. A ripping sound. Not just one, but many, as if the tent were being violently torn from the inside out, or perhaps slashed with desperate haste to escape. The subsequent discovery of footprints, later meticulously documented, would tell a chilling story of profound terror. Bare feet, some clad only in thin socks, scrambling in a desperate, unthinking flight away from the perceived threat. They fled into the sub-zero night, into the maelstrom of the blizzard, abandoning not just their coats and boots, but their very survival instincts. What could have driven them to such desperate measures, to willingly expose themselves to temperatures of -20 to -30 with winds gusting up to 20 to 35 meters per second? What unseen, unheard terror made them abandon all reason and rush headlong into certain death, choosing the immediate peril of the elements over the perceived horror within the tent? The desperation of their escape is almost unfathomable. Weeks later, the eerie silence of the pass was broken only by the crunch of boots from a desperate search party. They first found the abandoned tent, shredded and eerily still, partially buried under snow. Its condition, with multiple slashes from within, immediately raised questions. Then, the bodies began to surface. 2 young men, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivoniskenko, were found huddled by the remains of a small, pathetic fire, frozen solid, dressed only in underwear. Their hands showed signs of desperate struggle. Later, more bodies emerged, scattered across the slope, each discovery adding another layer to the chilling tableau. Zinaida Kolmogorova and Igor Dyatlov were found further up the slope, seemingly attempting to return to the tent. But it was the discovery of the remaining 4 bodies in a ravine that truly deepened the mystery. Ludmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevitov, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles. Some with strangely discolored skin, an orange-red hue. Others, most disturbingly, with severe internal injuries, fractured ribs, a crushed skull, despite no external wounds, as if subjected to immense pressure. One woman, Ludmila Dubinina, was found with no tongue, her eyes and lips missing. The initial official cause of death, hypothermia. But the details, oh, the details! They whispered of something far more sinister, a narrative that refused to align with a simple cold-related tragedy. The inexplicable clothing choices, some partially dressed in other victims' clothing, the odd, blunt force trauma, the sheer terror etched onto their faces, it didn't add up. In the vacuum of information, theories erupted like a sudden, blinding snowstorm, each one more unsettling than the last. The avalanche theory. This was the initial and most often cited explanation by authorities. A slab avalanche could have struck the tent, forcing the group to flee. However, critics quickly pointed out the inconsistencies. The tent was torn from the inside, not crushed from above. The footprints indicated a hasty, organized departure, not a panic scramble from a sudden impact. Furthermore, the slope was not steep enough for a typical avalanche, and there was no massive snow accumulation downstream, which would be expected after a large snow slide. The lack of typical avalanche debris further weakened this theory. Paradoxical undressing. This theory suggests that due to extreme hypothermia, individuals can experience a sensation of overheating, leading them to strip off their clothes, ironically hastening their demise. While plausible for the initial victims found with minimal clothing, it doesn't account for the severe internal injuries, or the strange behavior of fleeing rather than sheltering. It also fails to explain why some were found wearing parts of other victims' clothing. Infrasound theory. This intriguing hypothesis suggests that certain wind conditions around the mountain could have created infrasound, low-frequency sound waves inaudible to humans. Such waves are known to cause feelings of anxiety, dread, panic, and even nausea and disorientation, leading to irrational behavior. A sudden surge of infrasound could have driven the group from their tent in a state of terror, disoriented and unable to think clearly, explaining their seemingly illogical flight into the blizzard. The severe internal injuries could be attributed to subsequent falls in the dark and snow. Military testing/secret weapon theory. This is perhaps the most enduring and unsettling theory. Whispers persisted of the Soviet military conducting secret tests in the area, possibly involving experimental weapons or explosive devices. The strange orange glow reported in the sky by another trekking group miles away on the night of the incident, the unusual radiation found on some of the victims' clothing, though later dismissed by some as natural background radiation, and the highly unusual blunt force trauma injuries, reminiscent of a blast, fueled this speculation. The rapid and secretive closure of the investigation by Soviet authorities, the swift cremation of some bodies, and the official classification of the case as secret, only served to bolster the belief that something was being deliberately concealed. Could a low-yield explosion or a sonic weapon have caused the panic and subsequent injuries? The missing tongue of Dubinina, often cited as a sign of something unnatural, could also be explained by scavenging animals. But in the context of other mysteries, it remains a grim detail. Yeti/wild animal attack. While sensational, the idea of a large, aggressive animal, perhaps a bear disturbed from hibernation or a reclusive yeti, causing the panic has been floated. However, there were no clear signs of animal tracks, and the organized nature of some of the injuries doesn't fit the typical pattern of an animal attack. Furthermore, the tent was torn from the inside, not clawed open from the outside. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass remains an enigma, a chilling testament to the unknown. Was it the raw, untamed power of nature, unleashed in a way humans couldn't comprehend or survive? Or was it something else, something other? Something man-made and catastrophic, or something entirely beyond our current understanding? The incident transcends simple tragedy, evolving into a modern myth, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones around campfires. The wind still howls across Kholat Syakhl, carrying with it not just the snow, but the echoes of that fateful night, the screams of terror, the desperate flight into the void. And sometimes, when the silence of the mountains is deepest, you can almost hear the terrified cries of 9 young adventurers, forever lost to the unforgiving mountains and to a secret that died with them. The Dyatlov Pass incident isn't just a story, it's a cold, hard knot of fear and wonder, forever tied in the icy, desolate heart of the Urals, a perpetual reminder that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, forever haunting the fringes of human understanding.